How do, folks? Welcome to Six Castles Wish. Well, it's been a little while since our last vlog series in Disneyland Paris. I just wanted to say thank you to all those who viewed it. It's been one of our most successful vlog series to date, and thank you to all the new people that gave us a thumbs up or subscribed as well. They're always appreciated. I can't thank you enough for giving us the support that you've given us. Anyway, I thought after a bit of reflection, I would give you my personal opinion of Disneyland Paris and compare it a little bit with Disneyland Disney World in Florida. Anyway, so we'll start off with travel. Now, we travelled through Ever After holidays, who we personally find are brilliant. Granted, whenever you go anywhere, you could probably always find cheaper, but Ever After give us that extra support that we need, especially me with my disabilities and our constant need and changes and things like that. They give us that extra support which you can't put a price on, and gives us that peace of mind. So whenever we're travelling, we've always got Ever After there as support. We don't always use them, but we do like to use them quite regularly because they are so good. So I'll pop a link and a picture up there and details down below, so if you ever want to go to them, please give them a try. They'll always quote you something for free, but yeah, you'll find them very, very good. I personally have never had a problem with them and can't recommend them highly enough. By the way, I'm not getting paid for any of this. It's not like they're paid for any endorsements or anything like that. I just personally use them because I find them amongst the best to deal with. But on this trip, we actually wanted to get the most out of our park days, because most people, when they go to Disneyland Paris, it's not for an elongated stay. It's normally for a few days. And they'll take it on to other locations, things like that, but we're just focusing on the park. So we had a 3-day park ticket. So to make sure we got the best out of those park days, we had an early flight into Paris and a late flight out of Paris, which meant we could utilise those 2 days for travelling, and it gave us extra time in the park, so we could basically get the best bang for our buck when it came to part time and our stay in Disneyland Paris. So we flew really, really early from Manchester to direct to Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. Because it was silly o'clock in the morning, I don't think we'll be doing that again. Nothing wrong with the flight. Air France were brilliant. They got us there in good time. The lovely cabin staff, great service. It's just that you're fighting your natural body clock to to sleep, because we had to wake up at about 2 o'clock in the morning, or was it early? I don't know. It's addled my brain. But yeah, the flight time was really, really early, which meant we were really, really tired before we even started travelling. We got into Paris in good time. We actually used the TVG to get from the airport direct to Disneyland Paris. Takes about 10 minutes. I think it was about 30 odd euros each, which is roughly the same as it would be on the Magical Express. It's only one stop, so it's a very quick, easy journey. The only problem we had was that there were lots of other people with the exact same idea, not necessarily going to Disneyland Paris, but they're on that route. So it was absolutely rammed. For those of you that have been on the London Underground during rush hour, you'll know what I mean when I say it's a crush. So there was us with suitcases, there were other families, other commuters, all trying to barge into it, and people are obviously nervous about getting on the train, so it was a bit hectic, but we got there, and like I say, we only went one stop, so it wasn't too much of an inconvenience. But yeah, we got to the station. It's just a 2-minute walk to the buses, and the bus took us straight to Hotel Cheyenne, where we checked in. We couldn't go to the room. The room wasn't ready, obviously, because we turned up early. We were there before lunchtime. So we managed to put our suitcases with the concierge, and they gave us our tickets, and we managed to go into the parks. So Cartfault Hotel Cheyenne, they checked us in. They were brilliant. They gave us all the information we need. I'll go on to the cards and such like for disability a little later. But yeah, so they gave us our part tickets. We got that. We checked in. We actually got a nice 30th card. Obviously, I covered up a bit of details on that. But this is your ticket to get into the park, get on all the rides. And there you go. If you can see that. That's a nice 30th souvenir there. But yeah, they got us into the park. It's not like in Florida where you have a wristband, but you can get cards in Florida as well. So, you know, it's no great shakes, no difference really to anywhere else. You can actually buy the lanyards with a little pouch on just to keep around your neck as another little souvenir as well. So it was all good. It was all very well handled. The cast members were brilliant with getting us in. Obviously, they're in France and they speak French. I don't, but they were more than accommodating with any language barriers. So I can't praise them enough. They're absolutely brilliant. They really helped myself with a lot of confusion and questions that I had about how things were. They were brilliant. They really helped out. Anyway, so we'll now go on to Hollywood Studios. Not Hollywood Studios, I do apologise. That is in Florida. Walt Disney Studios. You can see the confusion. Anyway, Walt Disney Studios is the sister park to Disneyland Park in Disneyland Paris. We decided to use our first day mainly for Walt Disney Studios because we knew there was a little less there and we effectively had a good half of a day to utilise, plus we were tired. Anyway, we went to Walt Disney Studios. We actually got the bus back to the parks. Took about 2 minutes, if that, to get to the park. Then you walk through security, who were very quick, just as quick as it is to get through security in Florida. And like in California, you've got Disneyland and DCA literally next to each other. It's the exact same for Disneyland Paris. You've got Disneyland Park and you've got Walt Disney Studios right next door to each other. So if you want to go to Walt Disney Studios, you go off to the left. So went off to the studios, tapped our card, straight in, no problem. It was actually polka dot day when we went, and there was a massive queue. I put it in the vlog, I think. There's a massive long queue to actually meet Minnie and have a special photograph. We did actually get a photo pass with this, but photo passes weren't that abundant. In Florida, you can't walk more than 10 feet without seeing a photo pass person, or there's a character meter. There's always something going on for you to have your photograph taken. Now, whether this was the weather, because it was seriously cold. I mean, obviously there's colder places on the planet, but when you're on your holiday, you don't really want to be freezing cold. It was minus in many areas. Obviously, there were wind chill, it felt colder. But there weren't that many photographers out there. There weren't many character interactions out there. So a lot of the photograph opportunities were done by yourself, which I thought was a bit unfair, since I paid for a photo pass to get all my photographs for free. I think in total for the whole visit we were there, we only got 2 photos on the photo pass. Anyway, so we went to Walt Disney Studios. We walked in, and obviously as you walk in, you go into the studio, and there's lots of shops and dining areas there. We did find throughout, not just with Walt Disney Studios, but also Disneyland Park, that the merchandise, although it appeared to be cheaper in Disneyland in Paris than in, for example, Florida, there was lots of generic merchandise there. There was nothing too unique to Disneyland Paris. There was 1, maybe 2 designs for the 30th celebration. Now, don't forget, this is actually coming towards the end of the 30th celebration, so it's understandable that there's not too much left of the 30th merch. But there was a couple of designs that was just repeated in near enough every shop that we went to. Other than that, it was just generic merchandise. Not too much with Disneyland Paris on that we found. We personally like ride-specific items. We did actually find a couple of items that were ride-specific, but yeah, we found the merchandise in general to be quite generic, so we didn't buy too much of it. We had a good little wander around the studios. It didn't take us too long to actually walk around because at this moment it's in a state of rejuvenation, I think I shall call it. Basically, they're adding extra parts to it. There's going to be a frozen land. I think there's going to be elements of Rapunzel and extra stuff. That's all being progressed at the moment. So it's a little like Epcot. There's lots of boards up there with building areas and development areas that you can't go into. So it won't take you too long to actually walk around it. But it's still a good half a day park. We actually veered off straight away into Avengers Campus. It was good. It was good. It wasn't too engrossing because we didn't feel personally there was too much there. We didn't see a lot of characters. We saw the new Captain America. We saw Spider-Man very briefly. We actually saw Iron Man very briefly as well. I think Captain Marvel appeared on top of the parapet by the Quinjet. She appeared there for about 5 minutes, and that was about it. There was a photo meet and greet for Ant-Man, but by the time we got there, it was just finishing, so we didn't get that opportunity. And that's the last we saw of Ant-Man. But we went straight on to Web Slingers, which is a very good ride. So it's a dark ride. It's open to anyone. They can go in there. You can actually buy attachments to enhance your ride. Basically, you're sat in a vehicle and you go through a dark ride, and it's a 3D experience as well, so you have to put on special glasses which will fit over glasses, so don't worry about having to take things off and being blurry and things like that. The 3D glasses will actually fit over the top of your glasses, but it can be a bit of a workout. So being a disabled person myself, it wasn't that easy to fully take on this ride. There's a lot of this movement because that's how you fire webs. So it is quite the workout. If you have problems with your upper torso or with movement, it can be a bit taxing. It did appear to be fully accessible for disabilities. How much they can interact will depend on their disability, but it can be tiring. So be prepared for that. If you're booking rides and meals and things like that, maybe book a meal after, just to sit down, just to catch your breath a bit, because like I say, it can be a bit tiring, but it was very enjoyable. Fizzgig beat me quite soundly, but yeah, I had problems with my back, so it wasn't easy. But that's making excuses. She beat me fair and square. Absolutely battered me. To be fair, well done, Fizzgig. Had a little look round Stark Kitchen as well. That's a quick service, but as you'd expect from a quick service. Best thing I could equate that to was, let me think, Backlot in Hollywood Studios. It's very similar to that. Down to the metal chairs and tables. There were a couple of sets. There was a library, Peggy Carter's office, which was good to look at. You had the Hulkbuster in the main entry, so you can have your photograph taken with that, which was pretty cool. There's lots of room in there. The prices for food are not that bad. They're actually pretty good, but it's just standard theme park food, nothing outstanding there. We just had a wandering because we were freezing cold, and we got to sit down for a bit, which was okay. We came out, had a little look around the area. Obviously, with my disability, I couldn't go on to the Flight Force, but if you've been on Rock and Roller Coaster in Hollywood Studios, then it's basically the same ride with a different overlay over the top. We then left the Avengers campus, because effectively that was all that was there, apart from things just basically to look at. We saw Spider-Man wave at us from on top of the building. He didn't climb down the building or anything like that, didn't come anywhere near us for that matter. Captain America did. And one thing that was a bit disconcerting was how overzealous that some people get. You get this in any park, but it just seemed a bit more prevalent in Paris. Obviously, every parent wants their child to meet their heroes or have the best time possible. So there was a lot of running and rushing and pushing to get their child, with the character so they could have a photograph taken. At one point, I even saw a parent pull another child out the way so their child could get in there. I'm sure if the character or the handler had seen that, they probably might have had a quiet word with it. But yeah, that's not needed for. But it's down to people's, let's say, excitement at seeing the character and obviously making the most of the time in the park. So it's not really acceptable, but it is understandable when people get that excited about things. So just be warned, make sure you've got enough time to actually see these characters rather than like mowing people down trying to chase after characters. There's more to life than like pushing people out of the way. It's not needed. But yeah, it was a brief time in Avengers Campus. Took a few pictures, had a ride. So we did actually end up eating later on a reservation with Pim's Kitchen. That is based on the Ant-Man franchise and is lots of relatively generic food that has been altered molecularly by Pim particles. So you have a burger which is massive, and you don't actually get the massive burger, you actually get a slice of the massive burger, which was okay, not massively tasty, but it was good, it was filling. There's other generic buffet food, there's giant pretzels, things like that. I'll put it in the blog. But yeah, that food was okay, but effectively it was a one and done with us. There was a big queue actually to get into Pim Kitchen. But one thing I did notice, I actually went to the toilets, obviously, wash up and that, and I noticed that the toilets are interconnected with Start Factory. So effectively, if you didn't want to queue up, you could actually walk into Start Factory and potentially go through the toilets and go straight into Pim Kitchen. Well, I don't know how it works. I'm sure it'll be noticed, but anyway, that's just an observation I had. But yeah, so we didn't spend too long in Walt Disney Studios. I did actually try and get onto RC Racers, but unfortunately the overhead clamp that goes on to hold you in place in the ride, because of a disability, I couldn't lean back far enough. But the staff were wonderful. The cast members were brilliant, very accommodating, very understanding, helped me unlock the ride, and actually I had to leave the ride at that point. It was very, very disappointing because I really did want to ride. It's one of the few roller coastery type rides I can actually go on. But yeah, it was very disappointing. But we consoled ourselves and we actually went on Remy's Ratatouille, see if there's any difference between the one in Epcot and the original one in Disneyland Paris. And yeah, it was much the same, if not identical. I don't know, maybe the 3D was a bit clearer, but yeah, it was a very good ride. Easily got onto it. Then yeah, on the exit there was a strange winter market. I don't know, it didn't really fit any theme in, but I suppose it was somewhere to get something warm to eat or drink. And yeah, we just had a little wander around and we didn't find too much else that we really wanted to go on. So we ended up finishing off that day. We actually went to the Skyliner bar at Hotel Marvel. Hotel New York, the Art of Marvel. I keep calling it Hotel Marvel. But if you can visit there, please do. If you stay there, you're even luckier. Yeah, it's a beautiful hotel. The Skyliner bar is fantastic. It's very well themed. The cast member that greeted us and took us to our table was wonderful. Yeah, spend some time in there. There's lots of art, lots of things to look at, experience, see. It's just brilliant hotel. I advise everyone, if you can, just go and visit there. Then we went back to Hotel Cheyenne and we actually got into our room. One problem we had with the room, I mean, it's an okay room. It was very well themed. It was, as we paid for, it was a river view room. We had a view of the river. It seemed very, very spacious. They could have easily put two queen beds in there, but they had a queen bed and they had a smaller bed, which I actually utilised. Unfortunately, it was extremely uncomfortable. There's a metal frame underneath it. It's, for me personally, I did not get a good night's sleep on it. But yeah, there seemed a lot of wasted space. I do believe there are other rooms with two queen beds in. Maybe we'll go for one of them next time. But other than that, yeah, the room was great. Okay. One thing, maybe someone can put in the comments down below. The actual bottles of shampoo made me giggle because they didn't say shampoo; they said shampooing. Now, I don't know if that's a thing, but yeah, put something in the comments if you know better than me. But yeah, it did make me giggle. So I'm going to shampooing my hair. Dear. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Hotel Cheyenne was lovely. One thing was a bit bizarre was you got 4 free drinks, 4 free hot drinks, and it was you get them from a dispenser if you can find them. We eventually found it. Unfortunately, it was on the last day. But yeah, you can get a coffee or a hot chocolate because there's no kettles or anything in the room. I'm like, just put the kettles in the room. It's a lot easier. But yeah, you take your card because that also gets you into your room. You go up to the vending machine, beep your card, and get your drink. And like I say, you get 4 a day. But you know, you don't always want to at the end of a park day. It's go hunt down a machine, get your drinks, however many you get in, and then walk all the way back to your room with hot beverages in hand. So it's not the best idea, but it is what it is, as they say. Anyway, the next day we went to Disneyland Park and we went to the Plaza Gardens for breakfast. There's a breakfast character buffet. The food was fantastic. The cast members were better. They were really lovely, helpful. Once again, language was no barrier. They took us to our table. They told us how everything worked. Yeah, one of them even asked who my favourite character was. I told them. They really looked after us. I had a birthday badge on, and every cast member, literally every cast member, wished me happy birthday, which was really nice to hear. They're very accommodating. The characters, there was Pluto, Captain Hook, Eeyore, who's my favourite. You can see little Eeyore there. Who else? Geppetto, Pinocchio. I think Rabbit was there. Tigger was there. I think that was it. Can't remember if anyone else. It was a brilliant place for character interactions. I highly recommend it. Pluto firm mowed me over. He was so excited and leaping up and down, and let on, especially when he saw it was my birthday, he was all hugs and nearly knocked me over. Captain Hook was really lovely. I mean, he's a villain, but he was really lovely. It was funny watching little children, when they see him, they just literally went, "No, go away." It was a giggle, but hey, he's a villain. I'm sure he's used to it. Obviously, Tigger was leaping about everywhere. Geppetto and Pinocchio were really lovely. And obviously, my beloved Eeyore was lovely. He was all about the cuddles. Absolutely lovely Eeyore. But yeah, the food we had was delicious. It was plentiful. Have as much as you want, and you were never rushed. You were properly looked after by the cast members. They couldn't do enough to help us. And when we actually came out, it was time for the procession. Now, in Disneyland Paris, it's a slight bit different to in Florida. In Florida, there's a parade that goes by at different times of the day. You also have castle shows and things like that. Whereas Disneyland Park in Paris, there is a procession and there's characters on there. There's dancers, there's music blaring, and they go to the hub and they take over the hub. You can actually, if you're ever going to see one, one good thing is if you go to the middle of the hub, there are several little stages that the characters will actually come out and dance on, so you get a ringside seat to all that activity. However, you will be locked in until after the show's finished. So if you're going to go there, be prepared to stay for a bit, because the show goes on for a bit. It is a big show. It's very energetic. It's very uplifting. We had a ball. It was absolutely fine. Probably some of, if not the best entertainment we've seen in all of Disney property. It was absolutely brilliant. I can't recommend that enough. It was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, having that after our very hearty breakfast, it was brilliant to see, and really built us up for the day. The park itself is fantastic. It was beautiful. All the areas were easy to get to. It was very well signposted. Every cast member I met was lovely. Couldn't do enough to help you. Once again, language is not, and I didn't have any issues with language over the whole weekend. So if you're ever going to Disneyland Paris and you're not too brilliant on French, don't worry about it. They've got you covered. I mean, it's always good and respectful, I feel, to actually try and speak the language a little. But, if you're struggling, they will help you out. So don't be afraid. Don't let language be a problem for you. They are brilliant. The shops, once again, they're brilliant. Lots of generic stuff, but there were lots of unique stuff, especially the glassware section. There was something, I had a bit of a scary moment, as you see in the video. I nearly dropped a glass bauble. So, yeah, that got quickly put down. But, yeah, a lot of generic stuff, but a lot of good stuff as well. It was all nicely laid out. It was bright, it was inviting, and it was warm. That was a good thing with all the weather we had there. We actually tried the Mickey beignets when we were there in Paris. Give it a try. They were good. It was nice. We had the ones filled with Nutella. Tasted lovely. Weren't that expensive. Literally a few euros. I think that's about it. But yeah, the actual area to eat in the Mickey beignets, a little cafe area, that was a bit crowded, but that's, to me, it's just a sign of how popular the food and drink is there. But yeah, they were a bit donutty, so I'm going to see what they're like in French Quarter in Florida. Hopefully they'll be like the proper beignets that we're after. But yeah, in Paris, they're okay. They're not too bad, not too expensive. We ended up going around several rides. We did, I think, the mansion was probably our best. Phantom Manor is what it's called in Disneyland Paris. Obviously, compared to Florida with the Haunted Mansion, there's obviously a lot of lot of differences. With my disability, with this ride, I was actually directed to the exit, which was a bit of a pain. It was easy to get on the ride once you were there, but obviously when you're going through the exit, you're always fighting people so it's like swimming upstream. You ever walk through Main Street when the fireworks have just finished and everyone's trying to get out? It's like that. You're trying to get onto a ride that everyone's trying to get off. So it can be a bit tricky, especially if you've got a disability, but not insurmountable. Once you get to the person, then they get you on the ride, same as they would do in any Disney park. The cast members, once again, absolutely brilliant. You've got Big Thunder Mountain in Frontierland as well as Phantom Manor. You won't necessarily think that the two would fit the theme, but they do a brilliant job in getting everything in that area in the theme. The theming in the parks, just absolutely fantastic. The signage, once again, absolutely brilliant. The character interactions, when you could find them, were very, very good. The actual paths, it was good to see that paths were wide, so you could get things like buggies or ECVs or wheelchairs, things like that, easily over these nice, clear, wide, flat paths. It was just really, really good to see. Although I thought the theming was a bit over the top at one point, because you do see rats running around There's obviously not. They don't have a rat problem, but don't forget you're in the middle of the countryside there, and it's right by a lake, and it's a wet, arid land. So a wet, fertile land, I should say. So yeah, you will get rats. We only saw a couple during our time, so it's not like the rover run. No need to call the Pied Piper anytime soon. Yeah, I'm just looking at my notes. The merch once again in Frontierland. Once again, it's quite generic. There's a few good things there. Fizka got herself a nice Big Thunder t-shirt, which she's very happy about. And as with Florida, all the lands merge into each other. So like you got Frontierland merging into Adventureland, merging into Fantasyland, merging into they all merging together. It's very, very well themed, very well transferred into each other, and it just all looks fantastic. One standout point of the entire park, and it has to be a standout point, is the castle. Absolutely love the castle. Now, in hindsight, I've thought about this a bit more. When I was there, I'm like, wow, that is the best castle. And obviously, being called Six Castles Wish, we have to take note of the castles. This is our second castle that we've seen in person. And yeah, I think if comparing to Cinderella Castle, and no disrespect to Cinderella Castle, Sleeping Beauty Castle is better. And I say better, it's not necessarily it's bigger, or it just looks thematically better. It looks more beautiful. The colours work. The landscaping around it works. There's decent rivers, waterfalls. There's even a cave underneath with a dragon in there that interacts. I highly recommend going down to see the dragon. The castle, when you walk through it, it's more ornate. It's more open. It's more spacious. You've even got another level on the castle where you can actually walk up there. Now, obviously, in Florida, you've got Cinderella's Royal Table up there, and there's a bit of character interaction there. In Paris, you've got another level, and that level is filled to the brim with really ornate and beautiful stained glass windows. It's got tableaus and tapestries, and it tells the entire story of Sleeping Beauty. So I would highly recommend, if you're able, to go up there. And I say if you're able, because I couldn't see, or there was nothing evident to get disabled people up there, which is unfortunate. There may be, but I personally, I didn't see it. And even if you could get a disabled person up there in a wheelchair or an ECV, there's not a lot of room to actually manoeuvre about, because obviously it's quite popular. It gets crowded up there. The stairway up was fine for me, especially with my walking stick. I had the time, I had the room to actually get myself up there. Unfortunately, there's nowhere to sit down at, so I had to lean against a wall and just pace myself. But we did actually find a turret to go down, which, although it was quiet and we were allowed in this turret, there's nothing to say we couldn't go in there. It was a turret. It was very thin. There's only room for one-way traffic, whether it be up or down. And it was a spiral staircase with very small stairs. So for someone with more disabilities than me, you need to be very, very careful on those stairs. I found it quite difficult to go down there, and I'm quite sure someone, touch wood, they won't, but someone could have an accident on there. So I think that is something that needs to be looked at, or at least be cautious of. But yeah, go out onto the balcony, have a look over Fantasyland. You can see all over the park. It's absolutely beautiful. Highly recommend it. The only negatives I could see with the park, and it's an unfortunate negative, and once again, this is with no disrespect to anyone, it's just a personal observation I had, was When walking around the park as a disabled person, I noticed there were people bumping into me quite a lot. Now, accidents happen. Parks can be quite full, and yeah, people bump into each other all the time. This park at this time of year, especially with the weather, wasn't that crowded. It was quite open, and tends to be if I'm walking towards someone on a direct path, which happens when you're walking, in opposite directions, you're walking towards someone. If they're having a tough time of it, whether they've got a disability, whether they've got a kid in a pushchair, they're in a wheelchair, or whatever, I will make a conscious effort to move to one side so they can go past. This didn't happen in Paris. People would physically walk. It's like they're aiming for you at some point, but they would just barge past you. And at first, and your natural inclination is that that's quite rude. Because I'm there with the walking stick, someone's just barged past me. I'm having to recorrect myself just so I'm not falling over and just carry on. And they did this to anyone. Once again, whether they had it was a family member pushing a pram or a wheelchair or an elderly person or someone would just, anyone, people were bashing each other out the way. And like I say, at first I thought that was quite rude. But then I started noticing that they were doing it to everyone, whether they were able-bodied or not. That it was just, everyone was getting barged into. And then it started to dawn on me and said, maybe it's just their way. They don't think, they just, and no one, I mean, if someone barged into me on purpose, I would obviously take umbrage. I would, excuse me, could you not barge into me? Something like that. But yeah, no one turned a blind eye to it. So it didn't batter it. It wasn't a thing. So just be aware of that if you go when it is busy. You may get bumped about a bit, but just take it in your stride. I don't think anyone means any ill will or harm by it. It's just a thing. Obviously, if people are being rude, then challenge, but challenge respectfully. But yeah, it was just something to be aware of when you're there and you're not too steady on your feet. Just be a bit mindful of how people can be. And once again, I generally now, especially in hindsight, feel that people are doing it purposefully to be rude or arrogant or anything like that. And it's nothing. I know English people like to give French people a bad rep for being rude, but every French person I've ever met has been lovely. So I can't agree to that kind of thought. But yeah, just be mindful of it. And also be mindful there was lots of people smoking and vaping and things like that. So unlike the parks in America, I don't know, but if you know more than me, put it in the comments. I don't know if it's smoking is banned or not allowed in the parks, but I didn't see any of it challenged. There are people quite openly vaping, and not just vaping with those huge smoke generating vapes, so it looks like they're a steam train more than anything. But overall, over the whole 3 days, it was really, really good. The photo pass I didn't feel was worth it, because like I say, we only got about 2 photo pass. Maybe that'll change with sunnier times, but any character interaction we saw, there was a massive queue, maybe because there weren't that many character interactions. We did see a few. We actually managed to get one with Phantom Man and Mickey, which was a rare one, so we thought, yeah, we'll actually queue up for that one, but we didn't queue up more than 30 minutes for that, so in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't too bad. One big plus, I must say, with Disneyland Paris, and hats off to you, you handle disability access really, really well. Now, you have to ask for disability access. You put down that you require disability access before you go. When you check into the hotel, there will be a person there that can go through the disability rules and regulations with you and check all your details. You do need to show proof that you have a disability, whether it be a doctor's note, a letter of benefit, or a disability card. Things like I actually use my disability card that I use for parking, because obviously I'm not driving over there. So I use that, and they're like, yeah, fine, not a problem. And what they'll do is they will give you a card. Now, this card, like your card to get in your room or your ride, it will have your details on. They'll take a little picture of you. There's my little mug there. And they'll ask you a few questions. Are you able to do this? They will basically tailor the access to your disability. Because they'll need to know things like, if for an evacuation, are you able to climb out of a car, things like that. So they want to know, and they will assign a colour to your card which says you can go on this ride, you can't go on this ride, and things like that. So you will then know what you can ride and what you can't, because obviously they're more concerned about your safety. If things go wrong, they want to make sure they're able to evacuate you in a timely manner. And this applies for people that have physical disabilities, mental disabilities, and any kind of anxiety issues, things like that. Just let them know, and they will tailor the access to your need. And if you're able to get a card, it will help you get onto rides. You go on either through a lightning lane, or you'll go on through the exit, which I've said before, it can be a bit of a burden getting into a ride when people are trying to come out. I think the toughest one was Pirates for us, because obviously that's a high loading ride. So there's always a wave of people coming at you when you're trying to get onto the ride via the exit. So it can be a bit tricky. But generally, it was really, really, really well done. And unlike in Florida, you don't have to book a time. If you want to ride Phantom Manor at that time, yeah, you show your disability card, and you and your party can then go on the ride. You don't have to book a slot. So we found it immensely helpful having this disability card. It really helped me. It helped me pace the day. Sometimes you try and fit as much as you can in, but when you've got a disability, it's not always possible. So it's good to have these extra little helping hands in place just to help you out. So yeah, our last day we spent in Disneyland Park, and then off to the airport on the TVG. Let's say 10 minutes, we were at the airport and we were waiting for our flight home. So overall, it was a lovely trip. It was brief in grand scheme of things, but when it's below zero, and it wasn't too much of a heartache having a short visit, but it was really, really good. Would I choose it over Florida? No. However, there are bits, in my opinion, are better than Florida. The two parts could definitely learn from each other. I mean, the drone show is fantastic. They've now moved it into Avengers Campus, and at the end of the 30th, that'll take over. I'm sure they'll do more with it. Why Disney haven't done drone shows before now in other parks, I do not know. They are absolutely brilliant. The fireworks were phenomenal. The projections, brilliant. The way they organised the disability access, especially for the fireworks as well. I couldn't believe that. You had a special disabled spot for the fireworks. And I don't know if they do that in Florida, or if they do, I've not found it yet. But yeah, that was brilliant. A special area. It wasn't right at the front, but you got a decent view of the fireworks. And they made a conscious effort to make sure people didn't stand in front of you. Everyone was respectful, because obviously not everyone could stand up for a long period of time. There were places to sit down. There were people in wheelchairs. So people standing up in front of them, you're actively encouraged, move out the way so these people with a disability can see. So once again, major applause to the cast members for looking after all the disabled people as well during the shows. It was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, all in all, it was a lovely trip. I would do it again. as soon as I can. But yeah, we have other trips. Our next trip is going to be entertaining, to say the least. Our next trip is going to be, wait a moment, we're going to a galaxy far, far away. That's right, yes, we're going to Star Wars Celebration in London at the XL Centre. It's going to be a 4-day, I want to say 4-day, yeah, 4-day celebration of all things Star Wars. It's celebrating the anniversary of the last of the original trilogy, Return of the Jedi. It's got Lucasfilm doing a presentation panel. There's all sorts of cosplayers going to be there. The celebrities turning up, excuse me. There's going to be all manner of things Star Wars there, so we're going to be spending 4 days there. I'll try and vlog as much as I can. Obviously I won't be able to film inside the panels, although I'll try and do as much as I can. I'll try and meet as many people as I can. I want to see some of the artists that are doing some of the fantastic pieces of work that are going to be on sale at the event. Official Lucasfilm artist there. Even tattooists is going to be like official Lucasfilm tattooists there, which is going to be interesting to see. There's going to be lots of people selling toys, lots of people selling props, costumes, Funko Pops. My favourite results shirts are going to be there. So if you see me, please come and say hello. I'd love to see you. You can have a chat on the vlog if you want. I don't mind. There's lots of groups there that raise a lot of money for charity. So yeah, I will try and get as much as I can. If there's anything else that you'd like me to vlog, please leave a comment. Give us a thumbs up. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel as well, because that really helps people find the content, and it helps me get more content out there, because I want to put out as much as I can. So yeah, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you can. It really is appreciated. And I think that's about it. So hopefully you found all this interesting. If you've got any questions, please let me know. Please contact me with the details down below. I'll respond to as many, if not all, as soon as possible. And check out our Instagram page as well. We post up regularly on there, so there's lots of fun things on there. And until next time, bye.